So we're gonna make a branding iron today. This is the one. You can't really. Yeah, Seal a Dog. That's me. You start with sheet metal, about 1/4 of an inch wide. The one that I'm showing you is made out of 24 gauge sheet metal, which is basically I cut it out of a heating duct. This one here is made out of 16 gauge, and I had to heat the metal in order to get the tight bends that I wanted. But 16 gauge, 24 gauge works pretty well. And of course, first thing you're going to do is you have to bend this into whatever you want your branding iron to be. So in this case, you know, you take some pliers and you start bending. So here's a C. It's just up to your imagination and how much time you want to put into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is I want to get rid of some of this galvanizing zinc off of here so it doesn't interfere with my brazing later. Okay, here we go. I just took a little bit of it off. I only need 1/4 of an inch of this. So, and now I'm going to cut this to a more reasonable working length. Okay, and I want to cut one edge perfectly straight. I have one perfectly straight edge. Now, all right, now I'm gonna shear it off at that line, 1/4 of an inch. There we go. Here's what I came up with as what the branding iron is going to be. Seal a Dog. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue this down to a piece of 1/4 inch plywood using cyanoacrylate, because I have to belt sand the face of this until it's perfectly flat so that I can braze it to a bigger piece of steel. So I like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring this over to the belt sander, and I'm going to carefully sand this surface flat so it's all at the same plane, because the next step is going to be to braze this, and it's going to be brazed, this surface is going to be brazed to another piece of steel, because your branding iron has to be backwards, obviously. If I branded it, you know, if I used it this way, it would be all backwards. Still has a way to go, but I gotta let it cool off. If I get it too hot, cyanoacrylate will let go. Alright, so there you have it. Everything's got a nice, same nice shiny finish. Alright, so here we have the iron already sanded down, and now I'm going to put it in acetone to dissolve away the cyanoacrylate. Just let it sit in there for a while. Because the next step is going to be to braze this to another piece of steel. I'll let this soak overnight, and all the cyanoacrylate's been dissolved. And what I'm left with is just the metal. So what I have to do now is I have to cut a piece of steel to braze this onto. Alright, so this is a piece of steel, and as you can see now, the logo it's upside down because you have to braze it on upside down, and I want to cut out these two areas. I don't need them. So I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. Alright, so here I've got it wired onto this piece of steel, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to braze this in one of my gas forges. So I'm going to put flux on it and pieces of brazing rod, and I'm going to set it down inside the forge so it's nice and level, it doesn't move. And then I'm going to bring it up to temperature, and when the brazing rod melts, I'll shut the forge off, and hopefully it'll stay exactly in the position I put it in. Alright, so Getting ready to braise this together. I'm going to be using some regular old braising flux. I'm just going to take some and sprinkle it onto this. Now we're going to take braising rod and I'm going to cut it into little pieces about 1/8 of an inch long. I'll finish this off camera because it's going to take a little while. Right, it's ready to go into the furnace. So I'm going to carefully push it in. This is a gas burning, propane burning ribbon forge. Hook up the blower. And get it lit. Alright, well, I've taken it out of the forge and letting it cool down here on the anvil, and it looks like we've got a really good braise. Looks like all the pieces have a run of braising under them. It's hard to see right now, it needs to be cleaned up, but it took all of about 7 minutes to bring it up to a nice red heat where everything just ran together. So this is a good method when you've got delicate parts and you don't want them to move from torch braising. Alright, I'll let it cool down, I'll clean it up and we'll see what we've got. Alright, so this is what we've got. I took all the wire off and I just belt sanded the face to bring everything, so it was all flat and true in alignment. And it looks pretty good. Everything is braised down solid. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim off some of these corners a little bit closer. And then we're going to recess a hole in the back and we're going to put a handle on it, and then we get to try it out, see what it looks like. Alright, I trimmed off the excess steel from it, and I soaked it in a little muriatic acid for a while to get some of the flux off. And as you can see, hopefully, is that the braising just flowed across the whole top. And completely brazed that sheet metal to it. Alright, so you see I've got it all filed so everything is even. And now I'm gonna put a handle on this and we're gonna try it out. of truth. Oh, not too bad.